So here we are. Good morning, everybody in the Americas. Good afternoon, everybody in Africa, Europe, the Middle East. Good evening, everybody in Asia. Welcome everybody to this PME Early Researchers Day 2021. We are very happy to have people from many different countries here. And we are recording this session so that we can leave the recording in the website of the PME 44 conference, which will take place in a couple of weeks from now. And doing that will be important because there are some early researchers which will not be able to attend today, but they will be able to listen to all our conversation and in a way participate from our reflections by looking at this video afterwards. So hi to all of you and hi to all of them as well. We still have some people in the waiting room. So to begin with, thank you again for being here in all your different time zones. I would like to ask you to listen for a minute to Professor Markku Hanula, who is the current president of PME, the International Group for the Psychology of Mathematics Education, to get some welcome words and to get introduced about this virtual idea that we have today.
So thank you. So I haven't been given very clear or strict guideline what to talk here. So I'm going to be talking a bit in fairly general manners, in very general terms about PME as an organization. PME is one of the well-established and old international organizations in mathematics education. David is going to present a video presentation about PME as an organization soon, I assume, or did you already have it sent earlier?
Actually, we sent it there earlier so that people could check it in advance. Yeah, for us to have
so
more discussion.
If you haven't yet seen, you can see it afterwards and get an overview of what PME is as an organization. One of the features of PME has been that it's truly a very international. There's been a lot of effort to include people from areas that are not yet represented in PME. So it's not like many conferences that are international are in fact very much dominated by certain region. But I think PME truly manages to get lots of attendance from different regions of the world. It's also that the yearly conferences are happening in all the continents, so it's circulating. We haven't had any on Antarctica yet, but it's only because there's no bid from there. So we had conferences in Americas, in European, African, and Asian continents, and also Oceania, and that's the way it's continuing. So we have quite a good geographic distribution. We also have different systems to support people to participate. We have this early researcher day for beginning researchers. We have a early bird support system for people who don't have locally a supervisor who can support them for preparing a paper for PME conference. So they can get support through PME. There's even some modest funding for people from regions that are not well represented in PME to get funding to participate in the PME conferences. So we have this type of support systems to allow people to come in. There's also the PME spirit has always been very welcoming to new junior researchers. So if this were a physical conference, you would see how easily junior researchers and senior researchers get into very democratic or egalitarian discussions. Like, it's not the titles that are important in PME, but it's what you have to say. And there's been lots of important discussions that junior researchers have felt that the the seniors have been welcoming them into the scientific discussions. Typically in a physical conference, coffee breaks, excursions are important opportunities for network, and for virtual conference, we don't have that same opportunity. But I hope that even in the virtual conference, we will experience the welcoming PME spirit. And it's not just for junior researchers, I would say also for senior researchers. PME conference provides a lot of opportunities for discussion. It's been a principle that there's always enough time after a presentation to have a proper discussion. So that's one of the principles for the conference planning, that there's time for discussion, and it's very important feature also in the virtual conference that there's the live discussion opportunity. So it's online, but it's synchronous discussion immediately after the video presentations in the conference. So I encourage you to participate, not to be shy about asking questions that you may yourself feel that are stupid. That's often the kind of the barrier that junior researchers feel, that this is a stupid question, I do not dare to ask it, but don't feel a problem with it. So PME spirit is very welcoming for junior researchers' questions. And I think the virtual platform allows also for posing questions in the chat, which might be a little bit lower threshold for people to participate. So anything else you would like me to add, David or Miguel, about what you expected me to talk? We didn't have any lengthy discussions, what you would like me to say, but just a few welcoming words. And I think this would be enough, but if there's something else you expect that I should add, I'm free to continue on a different angle.
I think we are fine with that. Thank you very much, Marco. I want to highlight two things, two specific things that Marco just told us. One is that PME has a long tradition of being considered a conference or a community that it's very welcoming to early researchers and to newcomers more in general. It's, if I should say my feeling, the first time I went to a PME conference in 2013, which is about 8 years from now, it was that the discussions that arose in the conference were not only very interesting, but also very welcoming. And it's something very interesting that a lot of conferences, for instance, you have like a basic conference fee, and then you have to pay extra if you want to go to the gala dinner, or if you want to go to the excursions or things like that. Whereas in PME, there's a single value, a single cost of the conference fee, which includes everything. So just because of being registered to the conference, you get access to the conference gala dinner, you get access to the excursions, and you can go there and you can share with the senior researchers, with established researchers in the field. And they are always in this spirit of, oh, talk to me, let me know about your research, let me know about your ideas. I want to know, I want to learn as well. And I'm very happy to say that since 2013, that was my first time going to PME, I can say that the feeling has not changed throughout the years. And I'm pretty sure that will continue to be the same also in this virtual context, which I guess many of you will be registered already for the PME conference. Maybe some of you won't. But anyway, you have the chance to, if you have the chance to participate either in 2 weeks or in the future, please be sure that you will be welcome. About some of the other details that Marco mentioned, I will go through in a couple minutes, especially about how PME supports participation from underrepresented, from early researchers and people from underrepresented regions. Marco?
So just in case there are people for whom this is one of the first conferences, I really much encourage you to participate in the discussions. So the presentations are one directional information sharing, but the discussions actually give you an opportunity to better understand the researchers' thinking, and they are actually much better opportunity to grow as a researcher than the presentations. So the discussions after the presentations I find much more important than the actual presentations.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much, Marco. Miguel?
And we will have time, well, following what Marco commented, we will have time for discussion in small groups, even now after Mario's presentation. So the idea is indeed to make us to make some connections. So even in virtually, but try to use this space for us to start to know each other and start to know what the others are doing and the difficulties they are encountering, in order for us to actually create this bigger community that will be the community that will follow us along the years. If we are a early researcher at the early stage, we will have 20, 30 years to follow in this path. So this would be the community, the international part of the international community that will follow us in that period of time. David?
Thank you very much. So if you allow me, I will show you a few slides. Some of the things I'm going to say will repeat what Marco already presented us, well, either now in his words or through the video you might have already checked in from the email we sent you.
Just a comment. I'm not sure if Marco can stay for the whole meeting.
No, I can't, unfortunately. I have to leave for other meetings.
Yeah, you have a conference to organize, actually.
Yeah, but there's a more important. I'm meeting a student soon, so we agreed a supervision meeting before I knew that I would be expected here, so I can't. I postponed it a little bit, but I have to meet with my student.
Thank you very much then for joining us. And we'll see you in the conference.
Have fun. We'll see you at the conference.
Bye-bye. So give me just a second to share my screen and see how it works. So there you are. You can check my WhatsApp messages there at the bottom. But I hope not anymore. Yeah. So let me know, please, if you already see the shared screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So this is a very, very brief, a super brief introduction to PME in general, and what to know and what to expect, or ways how to get involved with PME. By the way, I feel I should have done this before, but I need to tell you that the organizers on behalf of PME of this Early Researchers Day are Miguel Ribeiro, who is from the University of Campinas in Brazil, and me. I am David Gomes, and I work in Chile in the University of O'Higgins, which is located very close to Chile's capital, Santiago, but it's not there. So this is the Early Researchers Day that accompanies the conference PME 44, which was expected to be physically conducted in Thailand in 2020, and then it had to be postponed to this year, and it's now held virtually. So PME, to begin with, is an international group aimed at promoting research and exchange. The field is mathematics education, and it has between 500 and 600 members, which the number changes every year. Okay. The group exists since about 1976. It's part of the International Commission of Mathematics Instruction, and it has an important focus on interdisciplinarity. So it includes now interest in mathematics, psychology, sociology, philosophy, history, all of them, of course, related to mathematics education, all other aspects of teaching and learning mathematics and their implications. Who are the members? The members of PME are everyone who registers for a conference. So if you pay the conference fee, then you are a full member for that whole year, which means you can be part of every activity of PME, and you will have the right to attend and even to vote for, let's say, for a president or for the international committee. I will go into details later, at the annual general meeting of the group, which happens within the conference. How is PME administered? As I was saying, there is an international committee of 16 members, which are elected by popular vote within the membership, and they belong to different countries. They're to different countries and regions of the world. There's actually a rule that there cannot be more than 3 people from more than 2 or more than 3. I don't remember that exactly, but there's a maximum number of members of this international committee that can be from the same country, so as to spread representation as much as possible. There's also this annual general meeting, which is for all members, and it decides the policy and elects the president and the members of the international committee. And there are many opportunities typically within the conference so that members can bring their ideas, to the organization. Something important that I want to mention, because here the audience is mostly early researchers, is there are 2 things. Marco mentioned in his welcome words that there's some, well, he added the word modest, but there is some level of financial support for people from underrepresented countries or economically weak countries in order to attend the conferences. Okay? So this is for people who would make a contribution to the conference. So for instance, they have a research report accepted, but would not afford attending the conference. And this financial support is financed by all members because the conference fee includes a contribution to this fund. So everybody who gets a research report accepted and needs it can apply to this financial support. And additionally, which is also very important for early researchers whose native language is not English, for instance, there is a level of pre-submission support. So PME has a person appointed to help novice or inexperienced researchers who need guidance from a sort of mentor before submitting a research report or an oral communication. This takes time though. So if you want to use this option, for instance, you need to have like a research report draft that you would want to share with this mentor, with this person who supports pre-submission process. You need to do that like at the latest in November of 1 year in order to be eligible for the conference that takes place in July of the next year. So the invitation here is to be aware of this and is to be alert so as to check the calendar and this specific option, the pre-submission support for the conference of next year, for instance, or for future conferences in general. This pre-submission support is given to a selected number of people from around the world, because of course it takes time, but is for free if you commit to afterwards registering for the conference and submitting your paper. Well, this I think we already mentioned it. It's about how to get to belong, which of course it's different. It's different in a virtual conference than in a presential conference. So in a in-person conference, you would make the most out of tea breaks, lunch times, excursions, the conference dinner, and so on. But in a virtual setting, the message there is make the most out of the discussions and get to enjoy the diversity that you will find in a PME conference. Diversity in terms of countries of the world, in terms of areas of research, and in terms of people coming to the table to discuss about mathematics education. Oh, so I need to stop sharing here. So, to keep with the schedule, Miguel, where are you?
I'm here.
There you are. So I want to invite Miguel to introduce our speaker here, Mário Sanchez, and then we will listen to Mário.
Thank you, David. Well, good morning, everyone, again. Good afternoon and good evening, everyone again. Just complementing one thing that David commented. Well, usually the ERD day, it's 1 or 1.5 days on the before the PME. And due to the situation we have in the present, we try to, well, we make a proposal to the International Committee. It was approved in our meeting yesterday, that we try to split what was supposed to occur in those 1.5 days along the year, so to spread the events along the year. That was one thing, and the other thing was to allow people that was not didn't pay the fee for the PME to be part of the ERD. Because that the usual thing was that you go to the conference, you pay the fee, and if you are an early researcher, you are at the early stage of your career, you can apply to be part of that. So we try to make it broader and to be more inclusive. So if we can be in our homes and be part of the discussion. Well, I have the pleasure to present Mário. I'm going to make a very short presentation because the important thing is to hear what Mário has to say. Well, Mário is associate professor at the National Polytechnic Institute of Mexico. I know Mário for a couple of years, and even for you to understand why is it important to be part of to be involved in conferences. Well, I know Mário from some of those which are for me the best conferences in math education, international conferences in math education, both PME and Série. And well, writing for conferences is too time consuming and brain damage, but it's an excellent excuse to know new people and to find old friends. So that's my the call that I make for you, to invest effectively in writing, and I think I'm aligned with what Mário is going to talk a bit, to try to writing on for the conferences. So because that's the way for meeting people. And as Marcus said, it's not so important the presentation, but even if it's important, but the discussions you made afterwards. And I'm sure that Mário is going to give us a excellent talk on his experience, also due to the broader experience he has in different places and different countries and in different roles in math education. And I encourage you to take notes from his experience, from what he is going to present us, to translate it to your own experiences and to pose questions. But to pose real questions, because if we don't pose, as Marco also mentioned, the important thing is that we can discuss, even if it seems a very awkward question, it might be a very important one. Okay, Mário, the floor is yours. Thank you for accepting the invitation, and I'm going to make my registers and pose a lot of questions in the work afterwards. Mário.
Thanks to you, Miguel. Thanks to you, David, for inviting me. I'm going to start sharing a screen to, as I understood, I have half an hour for this. Let me use my clock. I'm going to share a screen with you. So as you know, the name of this presentation is Life After the PhD. And well, as I was saying, I want to thank you, David and Miguel, and also all the people who is here listening for the invitation. It was a very interesting exercise to think about my own life, academic life after the PhD. It was a great opportunity to reflect after years, because and to realize that unfortunately I'm not a young researcher anymore, but still here, and I want to share this experience with you. So I divided the presentation into 5 stages. You can see them here. And I'm going to start right away with the first one, the background, give you some background about my PhD. So yeah, let's start with the first one. So I did a PhD in mathematics education research at Roskilde University in Denmark in this period of time. So as I said, I'm not any longer a young researcher. This happened like more than a decade ago, right? This is me, like it was October 2010 during the defense. I got a shower and I got a new suit, and yeah, I was happy. This is the cover of my dissertation. It was a dissertation on online interactions and teacher education, because I work in a place where before the pandemic, it was an online graduate studies program in math education. So I've been interested in this topic, online mathematics teacher education and teacher development since then. And I want to take the opportunity to thank my wonderful supervisor, Moren Blomhoy. Yeah, I'm indebted with this guy. He helped me a lot. And as part of the background, I want to share with you that I was lucky enough to be in Denmark studying the PhD during a moment when there was a common budget for Nordic countries. I don't know exactly the details how they get it, but they got some money and for educating their young researchers in math education. And there was a group of people. I found this old picture in the internet. The people who was involved in this project called the Nordic Graduate School in Mathematics Education. Why I'm spending time on this? Because this was very important for my education. These people, not only these people, there was other people around this project. They organized a lot of courses, PhD courses. We had PhD schools where something that some people has mentioned here, the importance of doing networking, guys. This is one of the first lesson I want to highlight. Is this place was important because of that. I have the opportunity to know other PhD students from other countries, not only from my school or studying in the same country than myself, and also other teachers. I had the opportunity to take courses with, I don't know, Abraham Arcabi, Marcelo Borba, people who actually I interacted with after the PhD. I want to highlight this. I remember actually Barbara, the lady in the middle. She told us in one of the workshops, it is important to make networking between you guys. When we were PhD students, she was telling us this. It's important for you to do networking because after the PhD, you are going to have positions, many of you, like as professors, as teachers, whatever, maybe working in journals, being part of boards, in conferences, etc. And it's important to have these connections from the beginning and keep them. So I'm sorry, I spent a lot of time on this slide. It was very important to have this opportunity of interacting with other people. Then I got the degree, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm going to the point number 2, back to Mexico. So I went to Europe with a grant from the European Union. It was nice. But then I have to go back as part of the deal. And I live in one of the biggest cities in the world. I live in Mexico City. And it was, to be honest, it was difficult to come back. I mean, I was living in Denmark, right? I was living with my family, with my daughter, with my wife. And it was difficult, even though it is my home country, it was difficult to readapt, I think, to the culture. It was difficult. But I want to stop here to say that I'm aware that I was, and I'm still are, in a privileged position. Why I'm saying this? Because before leaving Mexico, I already have a job position, a position in a research center, and they support me to go to Denmark and study. They wait for me. So I'm aware, guys, that I was very lucky and I'm feel privileged to, I mean, for example, after finishing the PhD, I didn't have to look for a job. I already have a job. So for that reason, I want to say this. I'm aware that I was very privileged. So this is a picture of me in the research center where I actually work. And I work in a mathematics education department. It was perfect, right, to come back. But to be completely honest with you, I got into something that yesterday I decided to call a gray zone. It was a period in my academic life after the PhD where I was not really productive. I have to say this. I was like going nowhere. I don't know how to explain it now. Yesterday I spent some minutes reflecting on this. I think it was involved this readaptation process, not only to the culture, as I said, but also like coming back as a teacher, as a professor, and deal with all these bureaucratic systems and understand the rules. And that was quite a process. And also, this is another piece of advice. I discovered maybe late that it's not the same thing to be busy than to be productive. I think in this phase, I was really busy. I was giving a lot of courses. I was attending meetings. I was like, but I was not really doing things that move my career forward. When I see at the distance, for example, the last point I have here, I was not really engaged in publishing. I mean, I was like, yeah, submitting some papers from time to time, but not, I was kind of afraid, guys, of the big journals, for example. I didn't feel sure about myself submitting research papers to these big research journals, right? I was like, and it was an obstacle difficult to overcome for me to get rid of this fear, insecurity. I'm trying to be very honest with you guys. And but something good came out of this period. I don't want to be too negative. It was becoming supervisor of master students and PhD students. It was part of this period, but it was a very rich process for me. It was a very, I don't know how to say, I learned a lot. It demanded a lot of time. I had to study a lot with these young researchers. I struggled a lot trying to explain this, what we do here, right? What kind of research we do, how we do it, etc. All these, what are the important journals, and it's very, very nice to make this process or develop this process along this person. It was beautiful. This part of the gray zone is something good, and is something that I really enjoy. I think it's something that it keeps you alive as a researcher, contacting new people that has new ideas about things that we could do, that we could develop. Okay. I think I'm about yeah, only 11 minutes. I need to slow down maybe. I'm going into point number 3. Remember, we have to go through 5 points. Leaving the gray zone. I call this one leaving the gray zone, because I have to move out of there. and there was a big factor pushing me out of this gray zone. I need to talk about this. The pressure to publish. It was also I mean, I'm old enough to testify this process. I've seen how the pressure for publishing has been increasing not only in my university, not only in my country, in other countries. For example, I know that in Latin America, in Chile, I know that there is some pressure to publish, right? And in Mexico, maybe a lot. I know that in Chile, there is a lot of pressure. I'm pretty sure that in Brazil is the same thing with Miguel, and it was very shocking, this part of, because the university was like, especially for people like me that has a position as a researcher, you have a lot of pressure. And how is this pressure translated into you? Money, guys. I mean, the salary gets really affected if you don't publish, and if you don't publish in the right places, right? And if you don't publish enough. I mean, it was a difficult period in my academic life, because I mean, I have my family behind, all these responsibilities, and seeing that your salary is like in the same place or worse, all because of your record publication, is insane. I'm not happy with this system, to be honest. It's like sometimes I'm stressed for this, but on the other hand, it's very nice to get a paper published, right? You get like, oh, you feel like handsome, you feel like lucky that day, but that's another topic. But I think this factor helped me a lot to move out of this gray zone. I had to do it. I had to do it. And here I'm moving to the next stage of the talk, which is number 4, a piece of advice, something that also was instrumental in getting out of this gray zone. Was these 2 things that I recommend you to do. The first thing is, you should, I think, after the PhD, you should stay updated. Stay updated. What I mean about this, for example, in the left side, the image on the left, I'm referring, for example, to what is happening on the field. I recommend you, for example, to subscribe or sign up for alerts in the main journals, research journals, and try to do this an habit, a routine, to subscribe to the journals. In this way, you will get a message on your inbox every time an issue is published. And then you can have a look at the titles. I'm describing the things I do. I have a look at the titles of the papers. I have a look at the authors. Who are the persons who are doing this? What are the topics? And if I found some of them like personally interesting, I open the abstract and I go to the abstract and I see the whole abstract, the keywords. I try to do this. And in the case that the paper sounds like really, really interesting, then I try to read it, try to find the space to read it. But in this way, I think you stay updated about what is happening in our discipline, what new topics are emerging, or new methods and research groups, etc. And another way of doing this is, of course, attending conference. Miguel was talking about this, right? They are like big conference, important conference, where you can see like new ideas, and you can also, as Miguel was saying, new other people, because this relates to my second part of this piece of advice, which is stay connected after the PhD. What I mean with this, I'm talking about, again, about networks. I think Hanula mentioned this, Miguel mentioned this. I think it's quite important to just, let me tell you this anecdote. I have know people who is like more productive than myself. There are a lot of people, of course, more productive than myself, but like well-established math educators. I like to talk to them if I have the opportunity, and I sometimes discuss these kind of things, right? Like publishing, how you keep updated, their techniques or heuristics. I don't know, and but many of them, when I talk about the issue of publishing and of staying productive in this sense, many of them have mentioned the issue of having a network of collaborators. I mean, it's more difficult to move forward your career being alone and isolated. I think it's important to have people to collaborate with. And sometimes these people are your friends. Sometimes these people is people who you came across in a conference, and people maybe older than you, especially when you are a young researcher, and you need to maintain these networks. It's quite important, I think, to insist to create these networks and to maintain them. And these networks also, this is important, this network of collaborations, it can be in your own, I don't know, in your own institution, in your own city, but it can be, especially nowadays with all these technologies, outside your country. It's very important to do that. I know it takes time to build these networks, but you are in the perfect moment to start this kind of, oh, do you remember me? I saw you on this boring conference with Mario about the life after the PhD. Maybe we could do something together. And yeah, well, I think this is very important, to stay connected, to keep your networks. And okay, I'm moving to the last point. I still have 10 minutes. I briefly want to talk to you about my current situation. Again, this was a wonderful opportunity to reflect on all this decade. But I will say this is a picture of myself in the place where I'm right now, giving this talk. I was celebrating something with some person in my network. I was talking about the network, an academic celebration, I'm sure about this. And but I feel not as a top researcher, of course, not yet, but I feel like a more consolidated researcher. I mean, when I see my fears, my old fears, many of them are overcome now. But for example, one of my biggest fears, it was like publishing, right? Nowadays, I feel like more confident, at least to try. You know, I think you at least have to try because usually, especially in these big journals, usually you get good reviews. Actually, sometimes you get good reviews, and you can take them, even if you are rejected. That's another important thing. It is not you who is rejected. Is the paper, right? It's not you. If the paper is rejected, you can still use these reviews to, you know, to try to improve your paper and try again. But okay, I'm missing my point. I was telling you that nowadays I feel more confident, and I try, like, for example, to train new people to let's do it together, right? Like, for example, in the paper on the top, I publish it with one of my students, right, Danelli, and it's great. It's great to see it published. Oh, let's do it. Or, for example, I selected the one of the bottom because it shows this networking of persons is people from another country, in other universities, but we work together and try to publish together. So in this aspect, I feel more confident. I'm still get rejected, my papers, but I feel more confident, and I feel more energy to submit papers and more and try to do it. And I'm also, another important part of my academic career is work as an editor in research journals. And here I want to take the opportunity to make some commercials or advertising, I don't know the word. For example, I work in this Latin American research journal called Educación Matemática. I'm associate editor. And the advertising is especially for this new journal. I want to talk to you about this new journal. Actually, Miguel Ribeiro is part of the editorial board of this new journal, which is called Implementation and Replication Studies in Mathematics Education. The link to the journal is down there, and you can have free access to the journal if you follow click on the link, and then you follow the instructions. You can have free access to the journal until December next year. And the first issue was just published 1 month ago, and there are papers by Michel Artigue and Paul Cobb, John Starr, etc. You can see them, and it's like a new research area we are trying to push, to develop. Okay, so I'm still talking about my current situation. I work a lot on this part of my time. And I learn a lot reading what people is thinking and trying to find reviewers. It's a very demanding but instructive process. And I have a lot of many other academic responsibilities. I don't want to complain here. What I want to say is that in a way, I'm still fighting like this gray zone nowadays. I mean, I'm like, I mean, sometimes you have a lot of things to do, and not all of them are productive for your career, for yourself, and for others. There is some work that is like what I'm doing in this meeting. You know what I'm talking about. But my point is, I think you need to always be focused on what do you want to do with your career, and focus to achieve that. Okay, And but something very important, and I'm about to finish. Something very important is that I'm still having fun. I have a lot of fun working in mathematics education. I think it's a very, very interesting field in development. You always see new things, and there are a lot of topics. I mean, if you like, I don't know, you are a feminist, you can find feminist studies on mathematics education. Or do you like politics? There is a socio-political studies. I don't know, there is a myriad of topics where you can work, and it's so interesting, I think, and well, very fun, I think. This is my last slide. This is my full name, guys, and this is my email. And I think I did it within the range of time. So thank you again, guys, for paying attention to this talk. And that's it. I'm open to questions and criticisms, whatever you have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mario, for your presentation. We have a lot of questions. Well, I'm starting with those from the list. Go for also, I don't know the order. So you decided not to pose the questions? You decide not to raise your hand? Okay, does anyone who had the hand on wants to pose a question, or because suddenly the hand disappeared?
We have a few questions in the chat actually, and if any hand raises, I will let you know.
Okay.
I think since I opened the session, they will show to me.
Okay. So we have a question from Destina from Indonesia. Can you see the chat, Mario? Which is, how old were you when you completed the PhD and you back to your career? And
yes,
it's related also with another one from the Paola. No.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I saw this one from Destina. Thank you for the question, Destina. I think I was not that young actually. I was like 29 when I started the PhD, I think, and I finished around 33 years old. I finished the PhD, and then I'm aware that the people start the PhD older. Like I had some colleagues that were older than me, but that's the answer, Destina. And the gray zone, I think it was like I don't know. I think it started 1 year after the PhD to 2 years. I was like, yeah, involved in that stage. Thank you.
I have to make a clarification because I always get that question also. When we talk about early researchers stage, it doesn't relate with the person's age. So it's related with the stage that each person is on the research career. So I can be a early researcher. I can be at an early researcher stage with 50, 60.
Yes.
So it's not related with our age.
Actually, it's common in some places like Sweden or yeah.
We have a question from Paola concerning the submitting to a paper. I have to say that we will have at PME there is a session on submitting journals, and then we will have a meeting also along in one of the meetings we'll have on the year about the submission and the research and the journals and the editorial board, and the main goal on that situation is to discuss the process. But Mario, can you talk a bit more
Yes.
on the problems and difficulties?
Yes, I can give a brief answer to this, Miguel, since you are saying that they will have a more detailed workshop on this. But first of all, I will let me some key ideas. You should locate, first of all, like key journals, the main journals. What are those? That's very basic information. There are actually rankings about this, about the best journals. I will share the links with you. There is at least two, one European and one like American journal. And it's very interesting to see that the lists are very similar. This is not the place to do this, Miguel, I know. But this is a first thing to do. I think you need to be aware of this, and then select a journal. Every journal has a personality. For example, there is a journal specialized on teacher education studies, right? If you have something like that, maybe it's a place to try out. I mean, see what is the focus of the journal, what kind of papers they accept, because not all of the accepted papers are research papers. You can do sometimes essays or other kinds of writings. And also, once you selected the journal, pay attention to the guidelines for the authors. I mean, and be respectful for example, if they say, I don't know, 8,000 words, your paper, please don't send 9,000 words. I mean, do it, respect, inform yourself about the guidelines and do it strictly. And what else? I think this is my last advice, and is related to stay updated. I think it's important to frame your study in the literature, in the world of mathematics education. I mean, I have a lot of master students, newcomers to the field, that they say, oh, okay, I have this didactic design for my classroom. And it works very nice. It's because I designed this because I want my calculus students to learn and be better students and very enthusiastic, you see? And they want maybe to submit a paper on this very nice design that they try out in the classroom, and the students are going to be very happy with this design. And then the reviewer is going to say, so what? Why I should be interested in this? Why I should care about your students? I mean, I know how this sounds, okay? But my point is, the strategy is different. It's like you need to, it's a cartoon, this thing I'm going to say. It's like, oh, Mr. or Mrs. Reviewer, I read your work. I read your work and you are great. You are a great researcher. You and your friends, you are doing a great job. I have been studying all your papers. I know your whole research is very interesting, but I think there is a tiny hole in there. And I think my study, when you say, oh, you study my whole work and you see, they start to pay attention. I mean, I'm missing my point. My point is you need to be really informed about the literature, what is happening in the math education world, especially in your topic. What happened to last week? What was published last week about your topic, and how your topic, your research contributes to this international discourse. I think that's very important when you submit a paper, to have that clear in your paper. What is your contribution to all this discussion we have around the world about this topic? I'm sorry, it was a long answer. Going back to you, Miguel.
Well, I think it's important to call, and I want to stress that Mario comment on the literature review. If it's a literature review, if we are in 2021, the literature review should be until 2021, not until 2000. Because if it's only until 2000, it's not a literature review. If you are working on a technology as Mario works, if you do the literature review until 2000, you see one thing. if you do it until 2021, you see a completely different thing. So it's important to enhance that that aspect. Well, we have a question from Heidi. Not sure if it's named well. Would you be able to describe the difference between writing a dissertation from an article for a journal, especially from an article that comes from the dissertation?
Yes. I'll try to give a short answer also, because I'm aware that I talk a lot. Yes, first of all, obvious difference, Heidi, is the length, right? A paper is going to be much shorter. And there is a trend in research journals to make shorter and shorter the papers. For example, if you take, I don't know, educational studies in mathematics, I think it's around 8,000 words. So they are short papers, actually, in comparison with the dissertation. Of course, there are journals, they are rare, like the Journal of Mathematical Behavior, that they don't have like a limit. There is no extension limit. But there is one obvious difference. But this idea, this difference of the length, I want to share this idea with you that I have about the papers that comes out of a dissertation. I think you can produce more than one paper from a dissertation. I really believe in this idea. I mean, for example, if you really did a good literature review in your area of knowledge, like Miguel said, updated, comprehensive, a very good quality review, I think you can publish it as a research piece. And then you can also maybe publish your empirical study. And so that's another point, that's another difference. I think you can produce several papers from one dissertation, I think. And what else? I think my last comment is, I think it's not only about the length. I mean, it's obvious that it's more synthetic, more. But I think the paper also is an opportunity idea. I'm going to finish with this, to improve your writing in the dissertation. I mean, sometimes you hand in the dissertation, and it happens with all the writings, actually. When you hand in the thing, you discover, oh, I forgot to delete this. And it's very common, this, right? It's always happened. So I think the paper idea is also an opportunity to improve those things that you saw on your dissertation. And this is a new opportunity to write it again in the right way, right? So this is another difference. It gives you time to reflect and to put it maybe in other words, maybe copy and paste another sections, but I think it gives you an opportunity to improve the things you already did. That's my answer, Miguel, for now. Yes.
Thank you, Mario. We had a conversation some time ago on that also, and I want to share with you. Well, we usually have, when we have a research, we have all this amount of data and results and things, which is 200 pages. And then our first step is, well, I want to put those 200 pages in 20 pages. So that was that is one of the difficulties. Try not to do that. So from those 200 pages, what do I want to express in these 20 pages? So it's something that, well, both me and Mario have discussed it in some other moments, the difficult part of doing it. So it's not getting rid of something important, is to focus on the main thing we want to focus on. Well, there's another question on the gray zone.
Oh, apparently it's an interesting concept. Apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't have a gray zone, or maybe it's necessary. I don't know. Yeah.
So
Yes.
at the moment, how do you feel about that gray zone, the experience of passing from that gray zone, and how does it impact on your academic production and academic life?
Yeah. How I feel, I will start. How I feel. Well, I want to think that it's a thing of the past. I want to think that I'm in a different stage of my career, and I didn't realize that I was there when I was there. Until later, I was like something like you look back, right? Like I graduated like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and what I have done, right, in all this time is something like that, guys. And coming back to the second part of the question, is like suggest something to avoid. I don't know if this avoidable. I don't know if other people experience this. I don't know, but the concrete advice is I would have liked Luis to submit papers to the journals earlier. I think that will have helped. I mean, because the earlier, the faster you do this, the earlier you get rejected. The earlier you start to think, okay, what I did wrong here. I mean, that's an advice that maybe it helps you to move faster from this zone. Start earlier to try submit one, but of course make a serious effort when you. I mean, try to submit something that has a possibility to be accepted. But try. David, do you want to say something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, if I'm allowed, I would like to make a short comment on that. I actually feel a little bit embarrassed by admitting this, but it was for quite a few years. I had this very strong feeling about having a work being rejected, like, and it was so strong that I would receive the paper, not on the paper, the email from the journal, which had the subject line like decision on your paper. It didn't say anything on the subject line. It just said decision. It didn't say which decision it was. But that fact was so stressful to me that I would let 2 or 3 weeks pass without even opening the email, stressing there, like, oh, what could have then they said, or what could have they written, or what will reviewer number 2 say about my paper, for instance. And it's and so after a few days, I would typically get the courage in order to open the email and move down just till the part it says accepted, revisions, or rejected. And then I would read that, and I would mark the email as unread, and then let it sit there for another 2 more weeks. And then like maybe after a month, after the actual email came to me, I would like open it and go through all the comments, and typically in the company of somebody, and not alone. So these kind of hard feelings against rejection can happen, probably to many of you happen or will happen, and you have to find a way to deal with them. One of my ways of dealing with them was opening those hard emails together with somebody. So like they didn't even need to know that I was doing that. But for instance, sometimes I would open those emails when working in the same room with my fiance, for instance, or with a very dear colleague. Then I did some other things, like for instance, when the papers were in collaboration with somebody else, I would forward the email. These are the comments we received, and I don't have time to go through them now, but let me know your thoughts. And then I got like the comments like pre-processed by my colleagues. And then I got the feeling like, oh, actually the comments were difficult, but they were not that bad. So I think something key that Mario mentioned is always remember that the rejection is about the paper. It's not about you. If the rejection is about you, then the editor should say something and should say, this is not a fair written review. This is not a nice review. I'm not going to use it as it is, because this is academia, this is work. This should always be about the work and not about the people.
Also, just to add something, well, I also used to say, I only know one kind of person, and note that I don't call it researcher, one kind of person that does not get a rejection, which is the person who doesn't submit anything. So if you don't submit, you don't get rejected. And that's something we need to think on the quality of the work we do. If I do research, I need to publish, or at least I need to submit it. Because if I don't submit it, if I don't publish it, in most countries, it means I don't do research. So I only do research if it's publishable. But it's, as Mario and David said, well, it's the research, it's not about you. If the research is not quality enough, if the reviewers consider it's not quality enough to be published in that paper, it's accepted to have a feedback from the reviewers, and we can improve the writing. It's supposed to be a continuous process for improving. David, let me just ask the last question before we go to the splitting the rooms, because there's a question from Ben, which I think it's important for Mario to comment, which is the relationship between publishing in journals and publishing in conferences. Is it important or not? So what do you comment on that?
Yes, I also agree with Miguel that this is an interesting question, Ben's question. I discovered this during my PhD, this heuristic of a strategy. I know, and I actually have done that, that people take the conference, the conference paper as a first try, even as a first. Let me show this to the community, right? Let me show what I'm thinking. What is my study about? Let me get feedback in the conference, criticisms, all the things I can get. And then I use all this information to make a new and improved version of the conference paper and submit it to a journal. So to your question, what is the role of conference paper? I think it's a pre-stage for many persons, pre-stage of a journal paper. It's a stage where you try ideas out, collect some feedback, criticisms, make improvements, and then submit it to the journal. I think that's a good strategy.
Okay, I think we can finish for now. And David wants to say something, so we can continue the work.
Yes, so in attention to time, well, we want to thank Mario for sharing his experience, and to all of you for sharing your questions. I am really sorry that we don't have the time to go through all of them, but we hope that we have gone through the main ones, and that Mario's answers and all the sharing that we've had here has been useful for everybody. But we don't want to finish this activity without the opportunity for all of us to network. You know, we've been talking about very important things of academic life, post-PhD and during the PhD as well, for instance, which are about this gray zone, the difference between being busy and being productive. I think this is a key thing that we all have to take back with us and reflect on that. And something, and another point that appeared in this conversation is the need to network. So we want to focus on that on this Early Researchers Day session. And we want to invite you to make small groups and to discuss and talk about some specific questions that we have for you. I'm going to share my screen just for a second to show you the format in which we will be working. So in a minute, I will share with you. Let me know, please, when the screen is showing.
It's okay.
Perfect, thank you. So I will share with you in the chat of the Zoom meeting, I will share with you a link to this shared Jamboard. And it is a board with a few questions here, and you will be working in groups of about 5 people. And the idea is that you follow these very little instructions. So we have a set of questions here. Each person will write first a personal answer. Then we will share and discuss the answers within the group. And then before finishing, we would like to invite you to write a message that each group would want to share with the PME community. Okay, so we will split the Zoom meeting into small groups. Once you get assigned into a group, this group will have a number, and then you go to the link in the Jamboard and look specifically for that board. If you go up here, you go to the board with that number, and then you start discussing and talking with your group.
You need to put the link now, because when we
before going to the sessions, you're right.
So just copy the link, all of you, and then
copy the link, and I'm going to the chat now.
Because we will be splitted randomly.
Yeah, we will be sent into random groups, so we will have quite an opportunity for networking. Make sure you know it's morning or evening or afternoon in the country of the people you end up grouped with. So I'm going to split the groups now, and we will be in this small group session, in this small group discussion. We want to finish in 35 minutes. So I would say, let's take some 25 minutes to do this, okay? So where is the group section? So, we'll have 14 groups randomly created. There you are. I'm going to stop the recording right now and see you in 25 minutes to share some final thoughts and comments. Bye. See you. So thank you very much to everybody for this time. I hope you could make the best out of your time in the small groups. Well, we got a bit excited with the Q&A section, talking to Mario and then talking in the small groups. So I'm afraid we don't have enough time in order to go through the boards, through all the boards and look at them and discuss a bit about them. But I hope you had the possibility to write some of your thoughts in the boards, because this will be useful for us. This will be useful for us to develop and to design further activities that could be helpful to all early researchers in mathematics education to get, I don't know, to improve their skills, or to have a better sense of what it means, what it takes to do some of the typical, let's say, academia tasks, like publishing, like reviewing, like writing a paper, and so on. I also want to add that we want to be very respectful of the time, because for some of the people here in the audience, it's very late. Like, it's getting close to midnight for some of you. So we want to be very strict about the time. I just want to say that, well, PME 44 will take place virtually in 2 weeks. And for those of you who are attending the conference, there will be a small session that will be thought as a continuation to this session. So we will present what was done here, and we will continue the discussion that was started here. You will quite probably receive a very brief email with a form asking for your opinion about the event, and letting us know any suggestions that you would like to see in further versions of it. So thank you very much. Miguel, Mario, I don't know if you have some closing words as well.
I just want to say, to reinforce what we mentioned at the beginning, that we will have, I think, 5 or 6 more events like this in different topics along the year. And we will circulate the message through the PME mailing list and also on the social networks. So the idea is that you don't need to be part of the PME, you don't need to pay the fee for the conference, but we will open the participation to all of you so we can continue the discussion. Thank you all for being here. And Mario?
Thank you all of you for your time, your attention, and thank you, David and Miguel, for the invitation. It was great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for your generosity, for your time, and for sharing with us your experiences. So that's it. Thank you very much. We are right on time. Hope to see you all soon, some in the PME conference, some in some other event. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.